Chapel Forge. Today I'm going to show you the easiest, quickest way that I have found to make applesauce. So I have a bushel of apples here. They're mostly Golden Delicious. We love making applesauce with Golden Delicious or Honey Crisp is probably our favorite. We don't really love making it with like Red Delicious, Pink Ladies, things like that. If we do it with those, we try to mix them in. I know a lot of people mix their apples up when they make applesauce. I don't get too picky about it. I just know that we don't love like Red Delicious. It gets kind of runny, kind of dark. And these apples give us like a nice, almost kind of fluffy, I know it sounds like an odd way to describe applesauce, but applesauce that we just love. So it's not really apple season yet here in Zone 6 in Pennsylvania, southern, southeastern Pennsylvania. But I ran on this bushel at a hardware store. I know it sounds random, but we have this hardware store locally that they have a little grocery store attached, and they have like bananas and apples and cherries, and like they always have some interesting things available. So our family loves applesauce. We really can probably never have enough on the shelf. We could probably go through a few quarts a week if we had it as a side with dinner or with lunch or whatever. So I'm always looking to put applesauce up on the shelf any time of year. So I'm going to walk you through how to make applesauce in the roaster. I think this is the easiest, most hands-off way to do it. No burning risk and all of that. If you've ever burnt anything in a stock pot on the stove, you know that once you smell that burnt smell, you're done. You have to dump the whole thing probably to the chickens or the pigs or whatever. And then you have to start over because unfortunately the burn smell just stays in the whole pot. So I love doing it in the roaster. This is also how I do my tomato sauce, which I will show in another video. So as you can see here, I just have them. You can quarter them. You can do whatever. Halving seems to do the trick. It's the fastest. It takes like the least amount of time. In the bottom of the roaster, I'm gonna put water. You can also use apple cider vinegar. I suppose if you had some maybe home canned apple juice, you could do that too. Water seems to really do fine. Last time I added some apple cider vinegar, I think it's fine too. Both ways seem to make a really nice applesauce. So I'm just going to get all of these halved, throw them in the roaster, and then we'll keep moving. So if you run across ones that have spots like this, as long as it's not moldy, I would just throw it in. They're gonna cook down and get brown or browner anyway when you're making applesauce. And then eventually we're gonna run them through the mill. So you're probably wondering why I'm putting seeds and stems and all of that kind of stuff in the roaster. It's because we're gonna use the mill down the road. So once these cook down, we're gonna put them through the mill, and the mill's gonna get out anything that we don't want in there, like seeds and stems and the hard, you know, any of the hard parts in the middle or whatever. So this is why I love this method, because I don't have to sit here and peel. We used to use like the spinny apple core, and that was fun. I mean, we did it with the drill, and you know, it's hysterical. We have like apple peels flying through the kitchen and all of that. But this is so much easier because I don't have to babysit this. I can put these in here, and I'm gonna let this roaster go overnight, and tomorrow I can make it into applesauce. If tomorrow doesn't pan out, because who knows what's coming down the pike, it can just sit in the roaster and I can do it on the next day. So, okay, so all of my apples are cut. I've found for the most part that a half bushel of pretty much whatever fits in one 22-quart roaster, which is, I mean, I feel like the standard size for a roaster. I have this roaster that I am using that was my parents'. They weren't using it, so they let me use it, and it pretty much just lives here now. And then a friend was selling a roaster for 10 bucks, and she dropped it off. So I couldn't lose on that one, so we were definitely getting a second roaster. I'm always on the hunt for roasters at yard sales or on Facebook Marketplace or whatever. So I feel like roasters and crock pots and water bath canners you can never have too many. So anyway, so I have both my roasters here filled. I'm gonna put a little bit of water in each of them. Might throw a splash of apple cider vinegar in each one. And then I normally set them at like 250, give or take. You don't have to be super anal. I mean, don't crank it up to like 400, but like 250 seems to do the trick. These will cook down pretty fast, and your house is going to smell amazing. Like I said, it's like 7:30 in the evening now, so I'm just gonna let these go till tomorrow. Probably Bud and I will get the mill out tomorrow. I'll show you that procedure. Get the mill out tomorrow and get these milled through. If it were morning, I could probably finish this project in like a day, you know, till we chop, roast, mill, and can. I could probably do that procedure in one day, but it's evening and this is just what we're gonna do. So, and like I said, if you've watched any of my other preserving videos, you know that I almost never complete a project the day that I started it because of who knows, whatever is going on. So yeah, that's why I love doing it this way, because if you are busy, you have animals, you have children, you have whatever, if you work outside your house, I mean, this is certainly something that you could start in the morning, or like chop them the night before, start the roaster the next morning or whatever, and do it when you get home or whatever. I love the roaster because I don't have to babysit it. I can literally just leave it on low or slow cook or whatever your roaster says. So I typically do like an inch of water in the bottom and a good splash. I know that's very specific. A good splash of apple cider vinegar in the bottom. And yeah, so these are gonna sit. We will revisit this tomorrow. I'll show you the mill. We'll talk about canning it. As a note, you don't, if you're not comfortable water bath canning, you don't have to can this. You could freeze it. If you have a freeze dryer, you could freeze dry it. I'll show you some freeze-dried applesauce tomorrow that we did. So you have options with applesauce. And the thing we love about applesauce is once it's canned or frozen, you just have an easy side. I mean, you make dinner, you make some kind of protein, you throw some applesauce with it, like you have a meal. So that's why this is one of our favorite things to have on the show. Okay, so I started this video 2 days ago. I have my first batch of sauce just sitting in buckets, not milled yet. Usually what I do is just put it in 5-gallon buckets and then just store it like somewhere cool. Or I'll put it in like stock pots and sit in the downstairs fridge or whatever. I try not to drag this out over days and days, but you know, that's how life goes. So yesterday I got this haul of apples that goes on forever. So I have 389 pounds of apples that I need to process now. We have a local orchard and they offer animal apples, and a friend that used to work there told me about it. I went in and asked them about it, and they sell their animal apples for 35 cents a pound. So we weren't gonna pass that up. I'm kind of in a lull in the garden, like my tomatoes are getting huge. My squashes and things are getting huge, peppers and whatever, but nothing's ready to pick yet. So it was like the perfect time to do this. I mean, of course, there's 100 other projects going on, but food projects, I didn't have anything like actively going on. So it was a good time. So I got all of these apples. They call them animal apples at our orchard. They're kind of like thirds. So obviously they have the first. Those are the best ones and the most expensive. There's the seconds that I feel like we have seconds around here in Lancaster County. We have seconds a lot. Like yesterday I picked up, hold on one second. I picked up some tomatoes and some peppers from a local farmer, and they were seconds. And basically that just means like they might have a dent or there might be like a blemish or whatever. Seconds on tomatoes and peppers, we just use for whatever, dinner or anything like that. Seconds on apples, I typically will use for applesauce. They're just not quite as good. They might start to get kind of that like grainy, softer texture. So these thirds, quite frankly, they're not any different than seconds in my opinion. There was like one or two that like maybe had a squished side. But so what I'm gonna do today is, like I mentioned before, I always have them. I don't core them, I don't peel them, I don't do any of that nonsense. We're gonna do that later. So I have my 2 stock pots going, and my 2 roasters. So my thought is I wasn't gonna do stock pots, but since I now have almost 400 pounds of apples to process, I thought I could get things moving in here. They don't need to be babysat, and then I can get stuff going in my stock pots. So a note about doing them in stock pots or pan or whatever is you have to really keep an eye on it, because if you burn it, the whole thing will stink and you'll have to dump the whole thing to the pigs or the chickens or the whoever's, the turkeys, whatever. And you'll have to just start all over again. Wash the pan and start all over. I have burned many a things to the bottom of my stock pots, and my poor husband has to sit there with the grinder and get all the crap off because nothing in the kitchen takes it off. Not a scrubber, not a cast iron skillet, you know, chainmail thing, none of it. So he always has to take it out to the shop and cleaned up. So I'm really trying not to do that. So yeah, so we're gonna get all these halved. We're gonna fill the 2 stock pots. We're gonna fill the roasters. I have like an inch of water in each of those to get them started, and then we'll just keep rolling through this process. So I want to show you what the animal apples look like. So, you know, you can see here, like there's a blemish, no mold, just a blemish. There's some brown spots in these. The outsides are obviously not perfect. So, okay, so I have both roasters filled. I have both stock pots filled. The goal here is not to like make them into applesauce in this step. You're basically just getting them soft so that they can go through the food mill. So we have a Victoria strainer. You could, I know there's other brands. We just happen to have that one because it was my mother-in-law's in like the mid 90s and I just happened to acquire it. So that's the one that we have. So yeah, you don't need to get them down to mush. You really just want to get them that they're going to go through the strainer. So just super soft. So I'm going to get those cooking. And then I brought up these two big, again, all these childhood things popping up. So these were, I think one was my toy bin and one was Zad's toy bin. We just happen to have like very similar toy bins as children. So I'm going to get all my apples halved and in these, just like cover them with a towel or whatever because the flies are stupid. And then that way, as my roasters and my stock pots cook down, I can just keep reloading them. Whenever they get too full, like I just can't anymore, sort of the same concept I had with when I did grapes. If you saw the grape video on ways to preserve seedless grapes, you can just let those cook down. And as it gets too full, just dump it in like a 5-gallon bucket or whatever container that you have. So that'll be my plan. As these cook down, I'll dump in 5-gallon buckets. And then essentially I will have all these 5-gallon buckets and I will dump them into the food mill and run them through. So, okay, so we've been cooking these down for most of the day. I would say we got the 2 roasters, the 2 stock pots. I just want to show you like the color of these. So basically once they start to get kind of brownish, orangish brownish on the outside, you're pretty much ready to go. You don't need to cook them down a lot more than that. And then so here you can see these are not quite as cooked down. This has a fresh batch on top. In the roaster here, these have that brown color. Pretty much I would say like when your house starts to smell like apples, it's probably about time. This one is about the same. So Bud is getting the Victoria strainer set up. If you're not familiar with this thing, I mean, it is the bomb to have. We use it for tomatoes. We use it for apples. That might be it, but it's totally worth having. So when we set up our strainer, we use a clamp. So we clamp ours to the island, just what happens to work with the setup of our kitchen. And then we have a scrap bowl, and then we have a good bowl. So we're gonna finish setting that up here. And then we're going to get our mostly cooked apples in. Like I said, you don't need to cook them down to nothing. You don't want to cook them down until they make like a really dark brown. That's probably going to be a little too much and you're probably not going to love the taste of your applesauce. So we have these 2 buckets we're working on filling. I would say we're about halfway through, which is not too bad. We had to go to the chiropractor today. So we had some other things to do. And so we're just cranking along. My goal is going to be to get all of this at least made into applesauce and into containers so that tomorrow I can can it. And there's a cute little subject helping me with applesauce. Zuzu, hi. Okay, so Bud's going to kind of just give you a quick rundown. I wasn't able to find this exact one on Amazon. This one is Victoria brand. Like I said, we've had it for several years. It was $27.95. I think the receipt that was in there is from, oh my gosh, we still have the receipt. Yeah, right it's here. From like 1997. No, 1994. Oh my gosh, can you see that right there? 1994, which is hysterical. We still have like the original book and everything. There are several of these on eBay. They are really nice quality. I will say, and this is probably our fault, if this wasn't totally dry and we put it away, we really should probably get that re-powder coated, but you can buy replacement parts for it. Anyway, so Bud's going to kind of show you just quickly how to put this together. They do have other brands on Amazon. It looks like they're like 60 or 70 bucks, but this is definitely a tool that you want in your kitchen.
Okay, so I have the base on a board here, which we clamp down using some C-clamps. And then this big bowl down here is going to hold our finished applesauce. And then this bowl up here is going to catch your scraps. So what I'm doing now is you're going to take your shaft, and like Mommy said, all the different models are different, but they should be pretty much the same. You're going to take your shaft, and you're going to take this little cover and pretty much slide it over, or whoops, put it like that, and take your spring. Oh, I haven't put this together in a minute, so I kind of remember. Okay, put it on like that. And then you're going to take it with this screw side going back here. There's a little hole back here. You're going to stick it in this big hole. Oh, stick out this little hole back here. Then, taking your wing nut and your handle.
This is the hardest part, is keeping track of all the parts.
Oh my gosh, for sure. Then it has a certain little pattern on here. Lining that up right here on the shaft. And then taking your wing nut, making sure that it's nice and tight. And there we go. Okay, next we're going to add the auger. So back over here, as you can see, on the inside, it might be hard to see, but on the inside there's a square divot in there. And the end of this shaft is square. So we're going to kind of put that in there and just kind of turn it until we feel it kind of snug. I'd say that's good. And then this wire mesh is what the applesauce will come out of. So the applesauce will come out the outside, and then the guts will come out.
And there's a few of these screens. Like there's a berry screen, a pumpkin screen. I think there might be another one. This is just the one that comes with it. Frankly, we use it for apples and tomatoes, and it's just fine.
Yeah.
I think my parents have the berry screen and the pumpkin screen, which we haven't used, but I am growing a lot of pumpkins this year, so that might be one that we try out, and then we'll do a video about how the pumpkin screen works.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm pretty sure now it's set up. So over here, these are some rubber wing nuts. Make sure these are on this at all time. The rubber gets nice and snug on the metal, doesn't move. And then, so this is nice and snug in there. You turn this clockwise, and then we'll load our apples into the hopper, and then it comes with a plunger. You plunge it, and then
don't plunge too hard, or it'll go shooting out the other end.
I forgot a very, very vital part. So you're not done yet. Take this part. This is your chute, and it slides over this assembly, and it fits on nice and snug, just like that. So this is when the applesauce comes out. It runs into your bowl. Now, as Mommy just said, don't plunge too hard, or else you'll get, million-degree applesauce on you. You're going to want either a towel, or these are flour sack towels we use for, that's not a flour sack towel. This is a flour sack towel that we use for a bunch of things around the house. And pretty much all you're going to do is, as you're processing your apples, just kind of fold it in half-ish like that. And then
everyone should have a good supply of flour sack towels.
Oh, for sure.
For everything.
And then this, make sure that the applesauce and still come out, obviously. Okay, so we have our Victoria together, and this is a giant ladle that we got for I don't even think $2.
At the thrift store, it's really great.
So we got a pot of apples here. We're just going to scoop it up, and then kind of let the drip off. Then dump it into our hopper here. So about 2 scoops of the ladle fits into the hopper.
And if you don't have an obnoxious ladle, a small pot works. A normal size ladle works too. We love this one for canning. Yeah,
we got this one off of Amazon. It was pretty cheap too. It's nice. Really good for chili too.
Yeah, and it hooks on your pot.
Yeah. So we're going to take our plunger here. We're going to turn the handle clockwise.
So every time you start, you're definitely going to get a little bit of liquid, which is fine. It'll just all mix into your applesauce. It won't be any big deal.
And you can hear the air actually come through there as I plunge. We're going to want to let that just go all through. It'll plunge. Oh.
So you can see we have nice, clean applesauce coming through on this side. We've learned some tips and tricks through the years. Go ahead.
So you're going to want a spoon or a spatula nearby. But so this doesn't come out far enough to not hit this. The
design flaw.
Yeah, the chute. So every once in a while, it's going to start to creep over here. Just kind of take it. And
if you have 2 people, this...
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay, I'll get it. If you have 2 people, the spatula part, have somebody do the spatula while somebody else you can really have like 3 people doing applesauce or tomatoes, and it is super helpful. So you see we have nice, this is like the color applesauce we want, which is why we don't cook our apples too long. If they get to the brown stage, which we've done before, we forget about the roaster or like whatever, something comes up and it happens. And normally what we do then is we just get more apples and just make a really light batch and mix it together, and it's fine. It's not like, it doesn't taste, I don't know, it doesn't taste burnt or anything when it gets really brown. It's just not as good. We just really love this like light, fluffy kind of applesauce. Like Bud said, just be super careful. This gets really, really hot. And you can see all the scrap that's coming out. So everybody was asking me like on Facebook and Instagram when I posted about this, you know, don't you have to peel? Don't you have to core and whatever? So you can see that all the seeds, peels, stems, anything that we don't want in the applesauce is coming out the junk hole. And all of this is going to go to the chickens and they will devour it, or turkeys. We might throw some to the turkeys too. If you have pigs, I mean, obviously they'll love this too. If you have none of those things, definitely put it in the compost pile. The compost will love it.
Something that I do want to say real quick, as this is coming out, this is seriously, if you think cold applesauce is delicious,
yeah,
it does not compare to warm or like fresh hot applesauce.
Yeah, hot applesauce is fantastic. So yeah, so we're just gonna run through this. Obviously this bowl is gonna fill up pretty quick. So normally what we do is we put it in this bowl because it's just big and wide, so it catches all the juice that's spraying around. We'll dump it into 5-gallon buckets, and then as food grade, right? Food grade 5-gallon buckets. And then as we, you know, have enough, then we'll just start canning it. So Bud's gonna keep working through this, and we're gonna load up that stock pot with some more of these apples, and he's gonna get the roasters in next and just keep rolling through. And we're hoping to get, I don't know, at least 100 quarts from this is my guess, 100, 120, so we'll see what happens. All right, so we're about halfway through cutting the apples. We're loading halved apples in these 2 bins. We got our 2 roasters and our 2 stock pots going. Bud is on the mill, and we got the applesauce in, and we're getting there. So one of our favorite parts of making applesauce is the kids love to eat it fresh, literally right out of the mill. So obviously it's hot, so we have to cool it off. But Jameson is over here for like his 3rd cup. Is it good, buddy? Mm-hmm. So that's the best part of making applesauce. Okay, so I just want to show you here, like, this could be considered like a 1/3, which, I mean, that could even be a 2nd. This could also be considered a 2nd, in my opinion, when you cut it open. I mean, like I said, we literally have them. When we do ones like this, we always check to see if there's mold in the middle. Obviously, this one doesn't have any mold in the middle, so it's fine. This one looks great, so I'm sure it's fine. You can see here in our scrap bowl, you know, some of these had a little mold in the middle, so we just threw those. I know somebody's gonna get on my case about feeding the little teeny bit of mold to our chickens, but they're gonna be fine. If they don't want it, they're not gonna eat it, so I'm not that worried about it. And yeah, this is just a great way. So we got these for 35 cents a pound. And this is an amazing way to get a lot of applesauce on your shelf. Okay, so right there you can see we had some that were on the bottom of the roaster that got a little dark. That is not ideal, but in this huge, it's not like really burnt, it's just got really dark because it was on the bottom. So you want to try to prevent that as much as possible. That's why we do things in roasters most of the time, because in a stock pot it's so much easier for that to happen. But that little teeny amount is not going to make a difference in this. You just want to try to keep them around this color, because then that's when you get this nice beautiful colored applesauce. Okay, so we're on the evening of, I guess, technically day 2. When I started this project, I didn't plan on doing like 400 pounds of apples. I was going to do like, you know, the 40-pound 1 bushel box that I got a couple days ago or last week, whenever I bought that. But now that we have this, it's become a multi-day project. So we're going to pause for the evening. We're going to do dinner. This is pretty typical. It's like 10 o'clock. And a lot of times when we're doing food preservation projects in the summertime, it always drags on until, you know, late into the evening, and then we throw dinner together. This is why we pressure can things like ground venison or ground bison, so that we can throw together, you know, tacos or something really quickly. So that's probably what we're gonna do. I have some tomatoes and peppers that I grabbed while we were out yesterday because mine aren't quite ready. So we're gonna throw those together with some ground venison or bison, whatever I grab off the shelf. you know, little cheese, throw it on a tortilla and move along. So we're gonna let these roasters and stock pots just kind of cook a little bit as we like decompress tonight. I'll turn them off before bed. They'll be fine. They're gonna stay plenty hot overnight. I'm not worried about it. On the counter, we have our done applesauce, so that's under that towel. We emptied our scrap bowl, which we have here in the utility sink, so all that mess is gonna go to the chickens. And then down here, we have our 3 tubs and 1 stock pot because we ran out of room, with our halved apples. So tomorrow morning when I get up, I will come down here, get these all turned back on, and just start, oh my gosh, just start feeding them. Start feeding the stock pots and feeding the roasters. I can't with these kids. And hopefully by tomorrow, we should at minimum be to the point where the applesauce is ran through. I'm not gonna have my helper tomorrow. He's gonna be at fire camp. So I'm gonna be on my own, and my husband's gonna be pulling the well with a friend. So I'm gonna be on my own trying to get this ran through. So we're gonna do the best we can. If we can even get everything ran through the roasters and made into applesauce, and then maybe the next day I can, whatever. My goal is to be done by Saturday. Tomorrow's Friday. I might be able to get that done. We'll see, even if it's Sunday, whatever it is, what it is. This happens all the time when we're doing these kind of projects, and running a busy household and whatever. So, yeah, that's where we're at here with the end of technically day 2 with our apples, and we'll be back tomorrow, show you the rest of the process into applesauce, and then canning it up. Okay, so if you watched our video with Missy, you know that Missy had COVID when she was here, and we slowly all just started sharing it. I got it like a week after Missy, thought I was done. I had a good 2 or 3 days, which was when I bought the apples, and I'm like, oh, this is great, like I feel fine. I was probably at 85%. So I thought this is perfect. Well, we started the apple process. We were about 2 days in. We thought we were gonna finish. We basically cut and cooked one day, milled one day, and would can one day, or that was my thought process. Well, then turning it into sauce turned into like 3 days because my COVID like flared up again. I had a sore throat so bad I could like not even swallow, barely could talk. I was so exhausted. And so, yeah. So then the applesauce starts molding. Obviously, I don't have a walk-in cooler. We only have 1 extra fridge. I just don't have enough space for this. And so it started molding, and the apples that were cut started molding. And had we been able to stay on top of this and do this in 2 or 3 days like I anticipated, we would have been fine. But that didn't happen. And so now, as you can see, we are out here washing up pots and buckets and whatever. And the chickens and the turkeys got a lot of snacks. So defeat, these things happen. I wasn't even going to finish this video because I didn't really have a finished product for you, and then I thought, you know what, this could happen to someone else. So thankfully, I guess maybe we'll save a little bit on feed this week because the chickens will be eating apples until their hearts are content, and the turkeys. And yeah, these things happen most of the time. I mean, I drag projects out over a couple days a lot because it's just, you know, how it goes, but I'm able to fridge it or at least stay on top of it, and I just felt like crap and couldn't work through it. Zad wasn't feeling good, Bud was at camp, and so anyway, as always, I hope there's some encouragement in this video that if you get sick in the middle of a project or something, it happens, you can at least feed it to the chickens, the pigs, the compost, whatever. So yeah, had we finished this, you would have seen my island full of beautiful applesauce. So we will probably do applesauce again in the fall now because I didn't get 100 and some jars of applesauce like I planned to. Yeah, so basically we would have just milled all that junk out. We would have fed the junk to the chickens, canned the applesauce in the water bath canner, and then put it on the shelf, and it would have been beautiful, but that's not what happened. So that's my encouragement for you, is if these things happen, just try to pass it on to the next creature that might enjoy it, and hopefully I'll have an applesauce video for you here in the near future. Bye guys.